Welcome back, learners. As we come towards the end of the Cybercrime Administration course, we have brought an interesting panel discussion for you all. Today we have with us Advocate Jayashree Nangre ma'am, Advocate Hemant Jhanjhar sir, Dr. Manoj Bhide sir and Mr. Mandar Wagmare sir. So let me introduce you all to our panelists today. We have with us first of all Advocate Jayashree Nangre ma'am, who is a cyber law expert and has been practicing cyber law since a long time. She specializes in cybercrime cases and typically financial frauds. We have with us Advocate Hemant Jhanjhar sir, who is also a specialist in cybercrime cases and has handled as many as 2000 cases and has defended them with his extreme skills. We welcome you both, sir and ma'am. Also we have with us Dr. Manoj Bhide sir, who is an academician and scholar and was instrumental in giving impetus to various academic institutions across Maharashtra. He is also a doctorate in statistics and research and has been the principal of Sindham College of Mumbai. He is also the director of State Institute of Administrative Careers, SIAC. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
And now we have with us Mr. Mandar Wagmare, who is a cybercrime administrator and cybercrime investigator. He is also a cyber expert practicing cyber audits since the last few years. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
The objective of today's panel discussion is to understand the techno-legal aspects of cybercrime detection, investigation, prosecution and administration. So we start off this discussion with our first question. My first question is to you, Mandar sir. How is computer technology used in fraud investigation?
So when we are talking about cyber crimes, the crimes which are conducted using the computers need to be investigated. So say for example, there is a financial fraud which has taken place. So the person who has lost the money generally goes to the police or the cybercrime expert, and those experts analyze those devices, they take the logs of those devices, they try to trace the IP addresses, and using these analysis and a few tools, they try to backtrace the attack where the financial fraud has taken place and where the money has been transferred to. So this is a very general scenario where any kind of financial crime can be traced back to. So this was we can say a very basic or a general technical aspect of a cybercrime.
Ma'am, my follow-up question to you on this would be, how do policies help us in cybercrime investigation and administration?
When we detect cybercrime, we found the policy plays very vital role, because most of the time any organization or government introduce cyber security policy for their organizations. If that policy is not implemented well, not defined well, then they become a victim of cyber frauds or cyber related issues. If they not follow so, then will be problematic for the organization to operate cyber security framework in their organizations. So cyber security policy plays a very, very important role to prevent cybercrime, not only for internal security but also for external issues.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Sir, my next question to you is, we have often seen there is a difference in the white collar crimes and the normal crimes, right? So how does this matter to you as a lawyer, and how does this change the scenario of investigating a white collar crime and then prosecuting it further?
See, there is a different part between a habitual criminal and a white collar criminal. Once you have a white collar criminal in your front, you cannot recognize him because it is a outset of his mind. It is a game calculated in his mind. He creates a fraud through his mind game. So habitual criminal as well as white collar criminal, there is a huge difference. And regarding prosecution, the cyber experts as well as the investigation machinery, the police machinery which have investigated the matter, though they have found the IP address or something else through which they have filed the charge sheet, and once we can file the charge sheet, we have to go through the charge sheet and then we have to calculate that this person has committed the fraud and not. So once we have to prosecute that person, you should have a thorough investigation, and that investigation needs to be carried with the extreme expert who should be able to make a statement before the court and who will able to make the investigation more proper, clear and all. So the judge who is judging that particular matter or in front of whom the trial has been going on, he should also have the knowledge regarding the cyber crime and as well as the investigation which has been carried out. So it is a huge difference between a white collar crime and a habitual offender.
Right.
So while prosecuting these types of crime, Once the investigation is been carried out with an extreme expert, then only we can prosecute it.
Right. Thank you, sir. My next question is to you, sir.
Okay.
Administering a digital crime is very difficult as compared to normal crime, as sir rightly said. So, what challenges do our forces face when they administer these kinds of crimes?
Actually, I was feeling that for long that such kind of education should be an essential part of academics, because with the advent of computers long back and internet and increased usage of internet, either in business, either in education or day to day affairs, and in this particular pandemic everyone was home and was working with the help of internet only, and that has given rise to the crimes. And now I personally always felt that the education of the society, students, elderly people, everyone is a must. And I found this particular course interesting, useful, and therefore I started taking interest in this particular course. And I am finding that the government offices are also now being equipped, and the extent of these crimes is so widespread that it needs lot of education and lot of funding for ethically handling all these cases. I hope the course contents were helpful to all the students. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Again, my next question is to all of you, because this is something that I personally feel. I have seen a lot of movies typically where FBI agents go on the crime scene and analyze it or try to identify a suspect based on some human behavior. But then that is all possible only in case of physical crimes. And here we are talking about digital crimes where we don't even know which place the hacker is from or what he does in his part time, right? So how are cyber crimes or how is a cyber criminal really identified, and how do you map their criminal behavior in this case, and how do you analyze a cyber crime scene sort of?
Just I would like to add in what Aishwarya just said, that in this another aspect is there is no face. We can't, it is a faceless criminal activity, and also it is what you say doesn't have a territorial boundaries. So it becomes more challenging for the investigation, for prosecution, and therefore it is more challenging.
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
absolutely. So how do you handle this from a legal aspect, ma'am and sir?
Actually, understanding the cybercrime issue, we need to consider what kind of incident happened. If you able to recognize what are the features, what are the evidence we have captured while registering the cybercrime. So first of all, you need to consider what kind of legal documentation you have, such like logs, screenshots, or the IP addresses, or the ISP of the service, ISP from the service providers. So we can collect all kind of technical evidence first, and along with the sections, along with the facts, we can register this particular case to the concerned police authority or to the cyber police department. Once we able to register this issue, then we have to prosecute this case for investigation. And during the investigation, we also found the other organization is also partially involved in this investigation part, because some negligence is always there. If you found any financial fraud, if you found any defamatory fraud, or if you found any other cyber attacks, what we found that every organization partially or indirectly involved in this issues. So if we have the all kind of logs and investigation report in the hand of police, then we can prosecute this matter to the concerned police station, as well as to handle the matter to the concerned court. There is a special court which stands for cyber crime and related issue. One is stand for civil and second is for criminal. If we consider this matter to the civil department or civil prosecutions, then all investigation report from the police department is taken on record, and after verifying the negligence part, compliances part, implementation part, the judiciary can identify the issue and also locate the crime aspects along with the investigation report, and they can pass on a judgment for a penalty and for a compensation. So it is very easy to prevent these kind of crime, though it is from local, though it is from national level, though it is from global level. If we have a proper technical evidence in our hand, so we can plead this matter in local court, in state level court, in national level court, and also on an international platform. So we can get a relief once we have the proper technical evidence in our hand, and so once we able to record our statement in a proper legal format or under the Information Technology Act 2000. So it is very easy to locate and to get a relief from this issue.
Sir, would you like to add something?
Yeah,
to
sure.
this?
As per the IT Act 2000, which has been laid by the government, all the penal sections in these are bailable, firstly. So there should be a implementation and as well as an amendment in that law, that at much that all those sections which are included in this all such type of offences, there should be non-bailable also, and the maximum punishment period which has been instituted in those laws, it should be increased. Secondly, rightly you pointed out that how can we recognize? It is very difficult to recognize a person, which I said, but a instrument doesn't talk false.
Right.
An instrument by which this particular person has hacked that particular account or created a cyber crime, that particular instrument, when it is recovered or it has been recovered by the investigation machinery or a cyber expert, that verifying that instrument itself can be clearly stated that a cyber crime has been created by using this type of instrument. Once we have an investigation properly carried out, which madam rightly pointed out, that it is a technical process. Once the technology is being used properly in the court or by the investigation machinery or by the police machinery, that police machinery have to go thoroughly with that particular investigation. They have to submit all those necessary IP addresses, all those equipments, as well as the person who has utilized those things. Then the prosecution may be proceeded. Apart from that, just have an example regarding some amount has been hacked from a bank account. Now what these hackers do, they utilize that particular amount from one account to n number of accounts, and then it is withdrawn. So you cannot prosecute everybody,
Right.
because some of the peoples, they are not aware that this particular amount was submitted or drawn from their account. Nobody is aware. But once we have the recovery of that particular amount or the recovery of that particular end account which was lastly used and which was firstly used, then you can prosecute and you can have a penal action against that person. Thank you.
Very well said, sir. And again, like both sir and ma'am pointed out, technical evidence plays a very important role in prosecuting a criminal, right? So sir, I would like to ask you a question on this. How is the evidence gathered and preserved in this entire process?
So it is very interesting to understand when a cybercrime takes place, we don't have blood lying around or knives lying around. So it is just a computer, a screen, and like there is only technology lying around, and it is very difficult to identify where the crime started and what is the current scenario of the crime. So as you might have seen in the movies, the area is sealed, the cybercrime experts are involved in the cybercrime investigation, the police are involved, and the law enforcement agencies are involved. So let's, for example, try to assume that there is a cybercrime case, or let's say a cybercrime location is there, where for example a laptop is there. Now how to analyze that particular crime is a different issue, unless and until we make multiple copies of that laptop, because the laptop is the prime evidence, and if we, while trying to find out or while trying to track down the attacker, if we manipulate some data in it, we will lose the evidence, and it will be called as the tampering with the evidence. So instead of working on live evidences, the cybercrime investigators generally make multiple copies of those evidence, and they work on those copies of evidence to track the attack. So every evidence copy which is created is bagged into a particular section, and it is recorded under a file number. So each and every evidence which is being multiplied, or let's say multiple copies which are created, these are kept separately, and there is a close we can say there is a close watch kept on all these evidences, so that none of the evidence is being tampered. So once we have gathered the evidences, the cybercrime investigator generally takes the logs of these files, tries to backtrace the criminals, and then it is forwarded to the legal agencies and the police authorities for going ahead with the crime.
For more clarification, I would like to share one case study for your reference. One of my client is having a YouTube channel, and that was a gaming YouTube channel, and he was having a 10 million subscriber for his channel. So he is getting a lot of money from YouTube. Some person, I can say a hacker, unauthorizedly accessed his account and created some content for his subscriber. The actual accessor, actual user is not able to access his YouTube channel, and all his subscribers were guided by the attacker. The person who became a victim of this fraudulent activity, he reported these crimes to the police department. Now the police department not able to trace what kind of evidence they can capture for. So then they wrote a letter to the YouTube channel, as well as they asking a logs for this kind of incident, and they found few details that this account is unauthorizedly accessed by some other person, and that details was taken from YouTube channel, and police authority has arrested that guy, those who unauthorizedly access that original subscriber, original owner of the channel. And then they went to the High Court for the further relief, because YouTube is not giving access to the originator of the channel unless and until they have the order from the court. So then those who are a victim of this fraudulent activity, they lost 85 lakh rupees, because in their YouTube channel wallet, their account was logged by the YouTube, because they don't have the order in their hands. So this victim went to the High Court and taken an order, but before handling this matter, police not able to provide the complete investigation report unless and until they have all kind of records from the YouTube channel, from the Google itself. So what I would like to highlight here, the investigation report, the technical logs is very, very important while registering the cybercrime and getting relief from the concerned court and from the High Court. But yes, you can get the relief if you have the proper evidence from the concerned ISP as well as authority like YouTube and Google.
Thank you, ma'am. That was quite enlightening. So now I have a question again, like there are so many different types of cyber crimes, right? We mostly focus on financial frauds because that harms us to the core, but then there are a lot of cyberbullying attempts happening around. There are a lot of social media scams that happen around us. So does it really differ the way in which we detect or investigate these different crimes, or is the methodology same for all different types of cyber crimes?
See, the matter always different, and the investigation method can be a different, but there are a lot of tools are available. I think our investigation officer also can enlighten this investigation part, but depend on investigation. Means if sometimes your internal investigation report is quite sufficient, and police department is also having their forensic lab, police department also having some cyber expert on their panel, so they can get it through all the investigation details, not only for the internal investigation, but also some internal investigation report and logs and technology needed sometimes to be used. And if they have both kind of evidence in their hand, they can solve any kind of issue. The cyberbullying, though it is from cyberbullying related activity, though it is from bank, though it is from internal, though it is from outside, the methods are different. But police must having this kind of investigation machinery in their hand, and they can solve it well, because nowadays police is also well trained to handle this kind of issues.
Sir, can you please elaborate on the tools that
Yeah,
ma'am mentioned?
I was quite excited to add a few points to this. Actually, when the question was asked that there are so many different kinds of attacks, there are so many different types of attacks going on, is the methodology same or different? When the attacks are different, the traceback, or let's say how we track those attacks, the methodology to track those attacks is also different. For example, when we are talking about cybercrime, it is not restricted to a very narrow scope. it is a broad scope. When we are talking about government organization, there can be DOS attacks, there can be DDoS attacks, where the attackers try to bring down the websites. You might have seen during the recent war situation, whatever is happening on the global level, the attackers are trying to bring down Russian websites, Russian government websites. The reason why is they are trying to, we can say they're trying to bully the government there. There are hacktivists or there are hacker groups which are trying to bring down the government websites. So this is what we call as the DDoS attack. In the DDoS attack, n number of requests are sent from various locations across the globe. So it is difficult to track which is the exact location, but yes, it can be triangulated to a particular location from where the attack originated. When we are talking about cyberbullying, say there are so many young people, like there are so many kids today who are exposed to the internet. They are constantly on the internet day in day out, and they don't know where to go, what to watch, and where to chat, with whom to talk. So these people are generally the targets of attackers who try to we can say entrap these kids into their malicious thoughts, or let's say malicious intents, and they try to bring those kids down. They try to bully those kids, they try to extract some money from them, their parents, they try to basically harass them. So in this case, whatever the conversation happens between the attacker and the victim, that is the prime evidence of our we can say the crime. Also, there are financial frauds, as we discussed. For financial frauds also, the modus operandi or the chain of events is captured initially, where we try to identify how the event actually took place, and in the complete chain of events, at every point of time, wherever that financial transaction was done or whatever conversation was done, that is traced back to the attacker. So this is how generally for various attacks we use various modus operandi as investigators to find out the attacker. One interesting point I would like to highlight before I think taking up the next question is, we were talking about the white collared criminals some time ago. So as everyone said, that it is difficult to identify the crime, as the criminals are not identifiable very easily. They are in disguise. So there is something called as non-repudiation, which is also present in the industry, where, say for example, the police will catch me for a crime which I have never done. I know the crime, I have not done that crime. All my friends or all my family members know I have not done. But a criminal has posed as if he is me and he has done the crime, where the criminal is not caught, whereas I am caught because he has used my IP address, he has used my technical details, and he has replicated my identity, he has used my identity, and he has conducted the attack. So in the face of the nature of the crime, I will be the one who is the criminal, whereas the actual criminal has got away. But in the real world scenario, even these crimes are, we can say, investigated, and the real criminal is caught.
Thank you, sir, for elaborating on that. So again, since we have been discussing a lot about financial frauds, and I understand that recently financial frauds have been happening across borders, right? International crimes are increasing. So like Mandar said, there is a chance that somebody who's innocent is being impersonated as a criminal. Yeah. So how do you, as the lawyers, take care of this, and how do you actually track down the criminal and then, protect the innocent people as well in this?
Now see, there is a differentiate between an innocent person and the person who has actually committed a crime. It is a part of the investigation. None of us come to a direct point of view that he is a criminal or he is not a criminal. It is a part of the investigation. Once, as per the prosecution, once the FIR has been registered at the cybercrime police station and it has been carried out, the investigation by a cyber expert or by the concerned police authority, they come to a conclusion that this particular crime has happened or not. And secondly, if this particular crime has happened, then we will have to go through the category of the particular criminal, because it is a part of the particular criminal who has been booked in that particular crime. We have to just go through and identify that whether this particular criminal has done the crime or not. If he has committed that particular crime, we will have to go through his IP address and all the tools and all the machinery and the evidence which has been collected, rightly, which Mandar sir just told us all regarding that particular data which has been collected while the investigation is being carried out. If there are some loopholes, and every time in the investigation there is a loophole. So, while dealing with such type of cases, we are very aware that what are the loopholes. We cannot directly come to a conclusion, and either at this point of view I cannot say that what are the loopholes, because that is the part of court procedure.
Correct.
And what type of loopholes are there, that the cyber expert or the concerned police authority is very well aware. So, it is very much easier to differentiate a innocent person and a criminal.
Right.
So, once the investigation has been carried out, once we go through the charge sheet, it is very simple procedure to just find it out that whom has been prosecuted, or a person against whom a personification has been done. A personification means what? My name has been used, but I have not committed a crime. That comes while the investigation is being carried out.
I think your answer has really given a relief to our audience, sir, because we all sometimes in our life fear that, what if somebody hacks my device and does some criminal activity? Do I still have a chance of going to the jail?
No.
So yes, thank you for the clarification. Again, coming back to the international cyber crimes, so sir, how do our police authorities or governing agencies actually handle these international financial frauds?
Actually, as far as I know, that these crimes are committed without the boundaries. So, when it is said that it has these crimes have no boundaries, then whether it is national or international is also a difficult matter to differentiate. But I think there has to be a proper understanding laws, because everybody is having a different interpretation about the implementing authority, then jurisprudence associated with that. And I think different countries, as in UNO, there is a body. Here also there should be a international body where the rules have to be standardized. It cannot be, one cannot have different set of cyber rules for one country and other country. There has to be a uniformity and the agreement, so that these crimes which are committed internationally are controlled and they will be less harmful to the mankind.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So, like we have in normal crimes, like if a criminal runs away to some country, we usually have a treaty with that country to get back the criminal. Is there some similar provision done for cyber criminals as well?
Yes, obviously, because I have seen that many banks has been targeted by international attackers, and their server details were captured by attackers, and they were using those details and creating malicious activity and send all this fraudulent amount to another country. And then we found the transferred amount which has been sent by one country to another country, then converted into the Bitcoin. So this is the biggest challenge to the national authority as well as international authority to trace that transaction, to trace that fraudulent amount. And so when it is transferred to the Bitcoins, so they have to check whether the blockchain is also will able to provide them a details about the particular transaction. So it is quite difficult to handle this kind of incident if the money went from one country to another country and then converted into the Bitcoin. But here we have to consider the treaty law, the international law plays very vital role here. And we can register this case, and once the case is registered, then it is referred to the CBI department. Once it is referred to the CBI department to provide these details to Ministry of Home Affairs, and through embassy we can take a court order and enforce this court order to get back that fraudulent amount from another country which was converted into Bitcoin, and we can call back that funds as well as that's criminal under the international law. But you have to depend on your treaty law with that particular country.
Justice delayed is almost justice denied. Now, Jayashree ma'am already told us that there are different set of treaties etc. in place. I am curious to know how much time does it take to solve a case, and does it really help, and is anything to be done so that the case solving is expedited and the justice is given as fast as possible?
Yes. One of my client became a victim of international forex banking fraud, and their money went to Hong Kong bank. And once we registered the FR in the local authority and we have completed all the proceedings, we have also reported this matter to the international court, and we got a relief within a year, and we also got a relief with 18% interest as a compensation on the fraudulent amount. So yes, we can get it through, but sometimes it will take a year and more than 3 years. So I know, but the justice is there, but sometimes due to the proceedings and due to the some circumstances issue, we can take a year, more than a year. So yes, we can get a relief when the international enforcement is required over there. But yes, within a year you can get a relief from the international court, and you can also get a compensation on your fraudulent amount.
Thank you, Jayashree.
All right. So actually, just going one step ahead from what sir asked. So, is it really possible for a cyber criminal to get away with all these crimes? The reason I am asking this, I have seen a lot of hacker movies, wherein just because of happy ending maybe, but they show that the hackers do get away with all the crimes that they have done. So, is it really possible in a real scenario? Can people just get away with their crimes or cyber crimes typically?
See, we have to categorize this particular economic offence. A cyber crime is one part of the economic offence, as well as the offence which can be carried out via social media and everybody's accounts also. So, getting away, there is only 0.1% chance getting away. If the investigation is been carried with a proper investigation officer, and that particular crime has to be registered. If no crime has been registered against, the offence has been committed, so he can get away easily. That is the only 0.1 chance.
Okay.
Sometimes what happen in daily lifestyle, people feel shy that or ashamed that why should I go to the police, and why should I file a complaint, everybody will blame me only, that you are such a type of reputed person and this has happened to you only. Because every time the hackers is waiting for you to do a mistake. If a link comes, if something else comes, and once we click over that particular link, the hacker is eager and waiting for that purpose only. And if we go to the concerned complainant authority, we go and tell them what was the fact which had happened. So once we go through this particular complaint, then that particular crime is investigated, that particular accused has been arrested, then he may be prosecuted also. But if you don't go through the concerned police authority and don't complain about that thing, how can that particular crime may be investigated? So that is the only loophole regarding that he may have a escape and all.
Correct. Thank you, sir. So, he has again reiterated that it is the need of the hour that if you face a cyber crime, do go on the cybercrime registration website and register an FIR. So, my next question is again to all of you. Let's say I, as an innocent person, end up losing money to some cybercrime. Is there any way to recover that amount? Can I really get that money back? And if yes, then how should I go ahead?
Yes, I have a very positive answer for this question, that yes, if we report cybercrime, any financial fraud, immediately to the concerned bank as well as RBI Ombudsman Department, we can get our money back within 3 working days, within 7 working days. But the condition is, if you recognize the financial frauds, and if you received any debit message which has not done by you, you have to report it immediately. So once you report, you can call back that money from the gateway, from bank's gateway and from others bank gateway, where NPCI will give you the immediate effect for calling back your fraudulent funds. So yes, you can get it back within 7 working days if you report it well to the bank and concerned authority.
Thank you, ma'am. So, what is in general the modus operandi of these cyber criminals? How do they really think? How do they plan these attacks? And then how do they execute it?
So, we all have seen movies, right? So, in a movie, we have seen a guy sitting in a hoodie in front of a screen typing something in green code, and we think that he is actually hacking. Whereas in real life, if you see, the hackers don't look like that. Hackers are just like you and me people. They are very common people who are working in offices, doing their own business, working in some government offices. Hacker, or let's say a hacker with an ill intent is only that person who has been troubled by some kind of problem and he is irritated and he wants to take some kind of revenge. but he does not understand that a digital footprint is such a footprint that cannot be erased. So any kind of crime, as sir said, that every kind of cyber crime can be traced back. Only if it is not reported, it won't be traced back. So in that case, the hacker runs away. But actually, whenever a crime is conducted, his digital footprints are present everywhere. You log into your system, you open a notepad file, you write something, you close your notepad file, and you switch off your system. Even this simple activity creates a log. So when a hacker tries to enter your network, does some kind of malicious activity and leaves the network, if he has not cleaned up his logs, there is a chance that he might be get caught. So coming back to your question, the modus operandi of a hacker depends on person to person. Generally, the hackers prefer social engineering, which is the easiest as well as the most difficult way to conduct an attack. The reason why I said it most easy is because it does not involve much of technical knowledge, but most difficult because it involves understanding the victim, trying to analyze the pattern the victim follows, and trying to manipulate that pattern. For example, if there is a person whom I want to hack, let's assume that I am a hacker who wants to attack a particular person, and I will, instead of going through the technology, because since last 20 years the technology has grown to such an extent that we can see it is very difficult to hack the technology, but people have become fearful to use this advanced technology, and that is why it is very easy to manipulate the thoughts of a person. So a hacker will generally befriend that victim. He will try to gather information from that victim, and using that information the attacker will conduct an attack. And this is how most of the social engineering attacks, where people lose money, people lose their information. See, most of the cases where people have a fake account, or let's say people say that my Facebook has been hacked, my Instagram has been hacked, the only reason is they are more popular on those social medias, they are more open to the people, they are more extrovert to the people outside, and that in some cases they might end up losing their password, they might reveal their password to someone in some other way wherein their accounts get hacked. So I think this gives you a clear picture how the attacker thinks and how an attack is conducted in general.
Thank you. Would any of you like to add anything to that?
While considering the modus operandi of the attacker or unauthorized accessor, I have seen that a lot of people doesn't have a knowledge that whether they are doing cybercrime or not. Nowadays, data is asset for every organization, and while considering the cyber security policy for the government, for IT companies, for export import, for bank, for any other institute, those who having a IT infrastructure at their place, they are giving actual access of their devices, their IT infrastructure, their data, their client information, their trade secrets to their employee, their associates. But sometimes the accessor, the employee, the associates ignorantly share their informations to other or forward it to their personal mail ID. But it doesn't feel that this is a violation of any law or breach of confidentiality. Ignorantly they do, or sometimes without having a knowledge about this kind of issue, they pass on their details to other. If they found that this information is very much confidential as per the law, then they recognize this is the data stolen activity. And sometime organization registered a complaint against their employee, against their associates, against their partners under section 43B for data stolen activity. But if we consider this kind of matter, what we need to consider here? Who is responsible? Employer or employee? And as per section 85, if the employee committed any kind of fraudulent activity, ultimately employer is also responsible for it, for not implementing cyber security policy effectively in their organizations. Means here we found this cyber security policy is negligently handled not only by employer but also by employee. So if any kind of fraudulent activity or any kind of cyber issue taken place in any organization, we can't say so this is the modus operandi of the employee to forward this confidential information to forward this client information to his personal mail ID. So while considering the modus operandi of the crime, we need to consider what kind of security policy, what are the implementation aspects is needed to be recorded and performed in a well manner is considered for the investigation purpose. So I would like to highlight over here, though we can't say this is white collar crime and this is ignorantly happened because of the employee's ignorance, because ignorance never plays in a law. So it is employer's duty, it is the data owner's duty, it is the duty of the owner who is originator of that data to explain the cyber security liabilities as well as to perform and implement security aspect in their organizations. We can't blame only employee about his negligence and about his data stolen activity under section 43B. If the employer is not doing and not implementing security aspects, ultimately employer and employee is also responsible for it. So sometimes it creates a complications in between cyber crime analysis and in few cases, but yes, we can penalize if the data stolen activity happened because of negligence, or I can say with intention, but we need to explain this policy and we can minimize this kind of issue, prevent this crime if we guide people, if we make them aware. And nowadays cyber security awareness training is compulsory for everyone, not only for employer but also to the employee, those who are accessing your data. So while considering the modus operandi of the crime, sometimes this incident happened ignorantly, so we can avoid this hurdle unless and until we have a knowledge about how to handle data and how to handle the devices under IT infrastructure.
Thank you, ma'am. You have highlighted some very important points here. So before we wind up, I have a few questions regarding phishing. So normally I have seen that phishing has been an attack on the rise and it has been used to target individuals as well as organizations. So my first question is to you, sir. In case of an phishing attack, if an organization loses money or loses some data due to phishing, then how can they approach the court and what provisions does the court have in this case?
See, phishing is of various types. We will have to go firstly phishing regarding monetary loss and something else. That if you receive a mail or some link is been there and we unfortunately click those links randomly, nobody is well aware that what type of link is that and why we are clicking it, and if some money is stolen, then once you approach to the police station, the police registers the FIR, and once they have filed the charge sheet and all, they will have to go through that particular amount which has been stolen from your account, from where that amount has been stolen and where it has been deposited. Once that amount has been deposited, it has been withdrawn or not, or whether that is lying in that particular account, that is seen to be there. The person who is committing such type of fraud, he immediately withdraws that amount. He doesn't wait, because he is also aware that as per the new rules of the RBI, within 3 working days once you file a complaint to the RBI and also to the concerned bank, that particular amount and that particular account is been frozen by particular bank, and immediately within 7 to 8 working days you get the refund of that particular amount. So such type of criminals, what they do, once they receive that amount by this particular fraud, they immediately withdraw that amount, and once that amount has been withdrawn, the person who has withdrawn that amount, he can be immediately identified that he is the person or he is one of the co-accused. So it is very much easier to find such type of person and locate him, and once that particular entire transaction has been filed before the concerned court, the court is also very well aware that if such type of people are creating fraud, they have been creating fraud for their personal benefit. So it is very much easier to prosecute them also.
Thank you, sir. So in order to trace back these email IDs or to trace back the hacker, typically in case of a phishing email or a smishing link, so how is it done in an investigative approach?
So everyone has been using emails, right? So when we get any kind of phishing mail, for investigation purpose, we generally analyze the headers of those emails. The header of the email is that part which defines from where the email has been coming, or let's say from where the email has originated, who is the actual sender of the email, what is the sender name of the email. Now the name and the actual sender differ in quite a lot of aspects. Whenever we get an email, we generally see the name of the person who has sent the email, but that name can also be we can say manipulated. Say for example, my email id is abc@gmail.com, but my name, my display name might be xyz. So this is an example where people tend to be someone else. Like they will send you the email with the name of a bank. Say Bank of America has sent you a mail, whereas the sender is some Johnny at the rate some kind of dummy server at the .com. So what happens is people tend to believe the name of the sender. People think the mail has originated from Bank of India. They click on the link and they do not see which link they are clicking. So there are many parameters to understand if a mail is a phishing mail or not, which we have already covered in the course. So when the person has clicked on the link, then there will be a new redirection which will take place. The new web page will be opened, and that fake web page is one of the evidences which proves where the email for example, where the request is coming from and where the response is going to be transmitted to. So the few things which help us identify in a phishing crime investigation is the email headers, which tell us where the email has originated from, which IP address the email has originated from, and lastly the IP which has been logged. So let's say you are going to transfer some money, or let's say the message has been received by a particular IP address. So these transmitting and receiving IP addresses are one thing, and the email headers are the other thing, and obviously the logs which play a key role in the investigation part.
Now, I just as a curiosity, now in the phishing, small amounts are transferred. They don't transfer a huge amount as per me, as I know, the small amounts, and sometimes many customers or many people ignore it. Means their money is lost, but I am not sure whether they really report it in the police or not. So what should be done in such cases, because people are losing small amounts very fast. Those who lose large amounts can resort to the various recovery methods, going to the cyber crime police station and all that. But what is to be done for small amounts? How those money should be restored back to the customer?
I have seen the phishing mail is not only to fetch the individual client. Even I have seen the phishing mail is also used to take a remote access of any bank server or any bank's admin department. And I have seen this kind of mail, this phishing mail and the spoof mail is used to create a confusion in this, the receiver's mind. I've seen in one bank attack that the bank employee received the mail under the name by using the name of government and by using the name of RBI. The person able to click that link, and the attacker was able to access the whole IT infrastructure of that bank by using his credential, because through that link, through that phishing mail, he can take a remote access of his device and his informations. Once he received the information, then he able to manipulate this information by using his credentials. The attacker able to create a transaction, perform the fraudulent transaction of rupees more than 15 crore and more than that. So now the next question, how they can recover the amount. As Hemant sir rightly said, the attacker is very well smart. They can withdraw this amount very immediately, and as per the RBI rules, we have to report this case within 3 working days and you will get it within 7 working days. I would like to highlight one important aspect. Though our money went from our account, means sender's account, to receiver bank account, but there is a gateway in between. So in that gateway, the money proceed for 3 working days under the Payment and Settlement Act. If you report your cybercrime or your financial frauds to your bank, that bank will initiate this request to the gateway payment company, to the gateway payment authority about this fraudulent transfer. And if we able to trace that transaction, we can freeze all the transactions from sender's bank account to receiver's bank account. through the gateway, because if the attacker able to access the sender's bank account for performing fraudulent transaction, then sender banks to provide alerts to all the receivers bank under the Gateway Payment Authority, under the guidance of Gateway Payment Authority, because the transaction will be complete within 3 working days. So you can call back the fund through the gateway
Okay.
payment activity only. So yes, we can call back our fund if we report our sender
Yes,
banks,
yes.
and if we report our bank about this fraudulent transaction, about this attack, then the sender bank has to send the notice to the NPCI department, to the Gateway Payment Authority, to freeze all the transaction from sender's bank account to receiver bank account. We can freeze all the process, and it will take 7 days, though we report in 3 working days, but for calling back the funds from the sender's bank depository account, which is very well in a gateway activity. So we can call back our fund, we can freeze that fund, and we can get a court order to release that frozen amounts to our account if the bank is not able to. And for all the information, I would like to highlight here, if the money withdrawn, as Hemant sir said, ki people, the attacker is very well smart, the fraudster is very well smart, and they've withdrawn the money, but the banking have the some operations, and they have the cyber fraud insurance for these kind of
Okay.
incidents. And as per RBI guidelines, there is a limited liability policy not only for the sender bank but also for the receiver bank. And if the money was withdrawn by the fraudster, we can get a relief under the cyber fraud insurance policy under the RBI guidelines. So yes, we can call back our fund, we can get back our fraudulent amount, but it is our responsibility to provide notification
Yeah.
to our bank about this fraudulent transaction, about this SMS of debit which we received. So it is our duty to report it well and to follow for this procedure and to get a relief for this fraudulent issue.
Thank you, Jayashree.
Yes.
I have got a sincere request and desire that those who have utilized, given their time, learned something, they should become the ambassadors, because I personally feel that there is a greater need of the expertise which we have studied, learned, to be disseminated to all parts of the society. So now you were given training here, now you become the trainers, create an awareness, so that as internet is spreading, prevention of cyber crimes also should be told, and society at large should be is to be told about it, that there are ways to prevent it. And I think if this is achieved, I think the job of you attending this particular course will be complete. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for your pearls of advice, sir. Once again, I would like to thank all of the panelists here for gracing this occasion and enlightening our audience with your technical expertise. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.